Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The major Sentinels versus 100T match begins today, and it turns out Johnqt, after all the drama the last few days, has turned up just in time to replace Curry in their team. Still, far from an ideal environment for Sentinels. They've had no scrims at all with this roster since their victory at Masters Madrid. How could 100T do later this evening, especially when we saw Loud and Liv play last night and get far from the results they were looking for? Lots of storylines so far this season. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, thought this is very interesting. These are an anonymous player poll in the Americas voting who are the best teams. So the players voted and Sentinels were given the most votes. 17 votes for them to win the Americas Championship, basically, even though they didn't have Johnqt until basically today, and that could have affected, and maybe still will affect, some of their early games they play. Loud second, although we'll discuss that in a second, and then NRG in third place here. We also had this one, which 4 teams will make it to champions. Loud, SEN, NRG and Liv getting the most votes here, which is interesting to see Loud number 1 on this one. But Liv, we have to have a conversation about these guys, and we most certainly will. This was very interesting though, right? Which team the most overrated? So it's kind of good that it's anonymous. Players don't have to can be concerned that, well, their vote's going to get out there. But NRG were said being pretty, not unanimously, but they were given the most votes as the most overrated team in the Americas. That is probably an assessment that lots of people would have shared, just because their scrim results are never that good. On paper, they've got a couple of the world champions, they've got such a strong core theoretically with the old Optic guys, but the question was, would they actually be able to put it all together? Would the kind of no standard in-game leadership type thing really affect them? I don't really think it is. We saw evidence of that yesterday. Liv, though, were number 2, and this was the point that FNS made before the season began. That one of SEN, I think he said one of SEN, Loud and Liv, or maybe SEN, NRG and Liv, I think he said, will flop. And, well, maybe we're getting our answer to that question already. We also got their most underrated team. This was funny, I've got to say as well. 100T were considered the most overrated team with 7 votes, at least third place. They also got 7 votes as the most underrated team. So nobody seems to really know where 100T are right now. And, well, we might see some evidence this evening. This as well, just because Fnatic have not had the start to the season they would have liked. Big questions on whether their coaching overhaul has made a big difference. Look, are Fnatic still going to be good enough to make the run they want to make, get to the playoffs, probably qualify for Shanghai? Yes, I think, but are they the team they used to be? Not on the evidence that we presently have. So definitely some things to look for there, but we've got to talk about this Johnqt stuff in a second. We'll get into the 100T response. Before we get to that, we've got various matches around the world. Lots happening right now in the VCT. This is just one example here of some madness, as it always is, over in the Chinese region. These are the matches that have happened over there so far. So Redwood Gaming do get the win against Gen.G yesterday. It was, however, a Game 3 and a pretty close Game 3 at that. Split was 13-11. Binders, we just saw that clip from, was the 39 to JD. Ascent was more comfortable. But yeah, Edward starting off strong, 1-0, but far from an emphatic result. And we've seen already BLG take down Tai Lu. And, well, these are the other results that have come through so far. We discussed the Wolves TEC series yesterday, and also AG took down Dragon Ranger Gaming, the team that qualified through Ascension. We also have the Pacific though, and this is when Bleed Esports, they're making their official return. They've had a shocking season so far, and here is Ye with an ace on the Rays. So, big talking point, the way the meta is developing. Is Ye a chamber merchant, right? Is he actually any good on agents that aren't, chamber? He was on the Jet back in the day. Ever since the chamber meta has stopped, has Ye been the same player? No, he was talking some trash yesterday to Boaster, and maybe that wasn't the wisest circumstance. However, if I hit the refresh on this series right here, we will see that it is 1-1, going to a third map, and Talon are smoking them right now. So, yeah, the promising start on the Lotus there for Bleed, the 13-9. Ye had a good map on the Rays, nothing crazy. It seems to have turned around again. And Bleed just, I don't know, these guys, maybe they bring this back from 10-2, but it seems unlikely at this point. Just haven't massively impressed me. Elsewhere in the Pacific, by the way, this is what we have so far. So Global Esports did go down to Zeta in the end 2-1. They got dominated game 1 right on the Sunset 13-1. They won the Icebox and then lost the Ascent 13-8. So a valiant attempt, really. Lots to talk about Polvi. Clearly a talented player, but man, this guy does go rogue a lot of the time. Then the other group, as it stands right now, so basically DRX took down Team Secret 2-0. Pretty impressive from these guys, especially because Flashback has stepped out of the team, right? So they brought Bayon into their roster. Not the roster I'm sure they were looking for. There was talk the other day that, well, maybe bringing RB back or bringing Zest back could be an idea at this point. But look, for now, they're good enough to get solid results. but without Flashback, I think it's going to be a tough task for them to get that much better than they showed so far this season. Let's talk about the Americas though, because man, what a couple of games yesterday. Lev versus Cloud9. Aspas is a monster. The issue is for Lev that this team was formed as a bit of a super team maybe on paper. They brought Aspas in, they had some great talents elsewhere. The issue is they may just have like one superstar, right? And that is Aspas. The rest of the team just aren't playing particularly well. And Cloud9, they were considered one of the teams maybe somewhat underrated coming into the season. They, of course, made the recent roster change. Rooney comes in. Again, it does a killer job. Oxy is still great. And then Moose comes in as well. That team looks pretty nice, but you gotta say on the other side, Aspas was doing it all and it wasn't enough. They won the Icebox 13-7 on Cloud9's pick. They lost their own pick though on the Sunset, and then there was a mega overtime here on the Ascent that ends up 18-16 to Cloud9. So a gutting way to lose, especially when King and Aspas have 65 frags combined and they still lose. Oxy though with a massive takeover here. And yeah, Com with a rough time because let's not forget they made that controversial change Com in for Nozwa. There's lots to talk about whether that was a good or a bad idea at the time, even from the players themselves. They didn't seem so happy with it. And yeah, he had a rough series in this one. So Lev go down. This was a series that I would have probably predicted Lev to win marginally. But the feeling was for many of the pros that, yeah, you know what, Cloud9 are actually better than you think and Lev are worse than you think. And genuinely looking at the roster right now, the way they're performing, and we see their scrim results as well, it ain't looking that good for these guys. So if I'm Pankada, I'm staying tuned, all I'll say, in terms of what the future might be there. Loud, though, also played yesterday. Loud versus NRG. Man, what a banger this has been, even when it was Optic versus Loud for several years now. They played NRG yesterday. Loud have been in a difficult spot over the last few weeks. Their players barely made it out back to the States in time. They got their visas sorted just in time. No practice really going into this series for those guys. Jet lag, I'm sure, was playing something of a factor. So not the best circumstances. But nonetheless, I think they would have expected to play better. And certainly the manner in which they lost the series was especially impressive for NRG. Especially because Les, like, you know, he didn't come in and play a bad series, right? Les was absolutely frying and was delivering the damage. But NRG get a clean 2-0 win here. Demon 1 on the Raze was quite fascinating to watch, really, just because he didn't really even use the utility to great effect. It was merely like, I'm just going to go and shoot these guys in the head. And that's basically exactly what he did. And then Sunset on Loud's pick was 13-2 to NRG. A dominant force on the attacking side of Sunset. Demon 1 crashes. Marved as well on the Omen, making some trademark lurks. And, you know, it was good to watch. And Loud just got dismantled here. So, yes, they will have some excuses and valid excuses at that. But I think NRG looked particularly impressive. And this is what you got to understand with NRG. However their practice is going, it just doesn't matter. Like, this team is legit. They have all the pieces. Ethan seems to be doing a good job in the in-game leading category. And yeah, Loud, a 2-0 probably doesn't mean that much in the long term for these guys. But, you know, you've got to think that there's only a couple of teams that qualify for Shanghai. And this down the stretch might actually be a very important series for Loud. So again, if I'm Pankada, I am licking my lips at the prospect of joining one of these teams in the near future if this situation maintains itself. As NRG Demon 1 even says, 2-0 to Loud to start up the season. Love my squad, not a bad Raze debut, right? And as we saw with Ye, Raze is an agent that you need to be able to run in the current meta that we have. Demon 1 is going to try and make it work, and he's going to talk trash while doing so. The other talking point, though, of course, we've got to mention the big one of the day, being Sentinels versus 100T. They played tonight. Ever since the Americas bracket was revealed, the fact that these guys played first rounds, it was like the big talking point, the big first round game, especially because 100T are put into a very similar category right now by the pros as Cloud9. Cloud9 just cooked Lev yesterday. Okay, they didn't cook him. It went game 3 and they won it a crazy overtime. But, you know, they beat Leviathan. 100T are considered to be a team in a very similar ballpark right now to Cloud9 in terms of their upset potential and being better than people expect of them. Whether they can deliver that on stage in an important series, that is another question, because we know that their players don't necessarily have the best history of doing that. But Curry was expected to play. He was expected to sub in. Johnqt hadn't got his visa sorted. And, well, as Curry says, Nud went. So this is the meme, right? And people saw this and were like, oh my God, it's over. Get this guy out of the team, because the meme goes that if you tweet this out, then you're bound to lose the series. But it turns out Sentinels had another plan up their sleeve for getting rid of this, because Johnqt is actually back in business, right? And Curry's like, what do you mean that I don't get to play? Because a Sensei, the hero returns. Johnqt has landed in LA and will be playing at our opening game. So he was saying that he's been checking his emails every single day. I thought that it was chalk, to be honest, for this first week, when Ten said the other day, either he will land last minute with no practice, or he will not make it in time for their first game. I thought more than likely it's going to be the latter, right, and he's going to have to miss their first game. And Sen were preparing for that eventuality. They'd scrimmed with Curry over the last couple of days, but according to Sen, he's there. Johnqt's arrived, he's ready to go, and yeah, he's ready to get called up to the main stage yet again. Now, with no practice, it does make things interesting, because we saw what happened with Loud. They come in, visa situations, visa difficulties, turn up last minute, not much practice, they lose. And 100T have had all the time in the world to prepare for Sentinels over the last several weeks. So I still think it's going to be a very interesting series, but with Johnqt back, you've got to favour Sentinels as currently the best team in the world. This is that series then going on this evening. SEN 100T. We'll have a look at how the Americas is obviously shaping up so far as well. So NRG moved to 1-0, as to Cloud9. They're playing currently the cross-group games. We saw the confirmation as well yesterday that even if, so 3 teams to playoffs in various groups, if you've got 1 win and you still are in the top 3 somehow, that's not enough. It'll go to a team that has 2 wins from the other group. So that's probably not going to make much difference, but it's probably a reasonable change. And these are the games coming up. G2 versus EG tonight. EG, another team, of course, that was voted, as we saw earlier, as a more underrated team, as with potentially G2. G2 with their new team as well. Icy is now in, with Net gone. How are they going to fare? But SEN 100T is, you know, the star of the weekend, no doubt. So very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.